Welcome to Changelog and Friends, a weekly talk show about the NVIDIA Shield. Big thanks to our partners for helping us bring you the best developer pods each and every week. Fastly.com, Fly.io, and Typesense.org. Okay, let's talk.
We have like the same glasses, Nick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they look very similar.
Are they Nike?
They are.
Oh, my goodness.
They're the same glasses.
You guys literally have the same glasses? What are the odds?
It's that on the little thingy right there.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, they look the same.
I really only need these to stare at a computer.
My wife likes the whole, Clark Kent aspect of me. I get to be this Adam and then that Adam with contacts in.
You're Superman at home.
That's right. I go into my phone booth and out I come. Clark Kent.
Speaking of phone booths, I watched Back to the Future Part 2 with my kids this week.
I did too.
Did you really?
I did. It was on one of the...
That's so weird. You guys have the same glasses. We watch the same movies.
It was on like whatever Disney TV thing that they had.
Oh, okay. We actually chose to. I thought, well, it's about time for them to have the Back to the Future trilogy in their history. So we went 1 and then we watched 2. And 2 is a different experience now because, 2015. When I first watched it, I was probably...
It was the future.
Yeah, I was probably 10 years old. It was probably 1992. I don't know when it came out, but
Yeah.
it was casting forward. Now it's casting back. And so my kids didn't like it as much as I did when I was a kid because I was so excited about the things that might be. And they're all like, this isn't accurate. We don't have any of this stuff,
Right.
But one thing they did have, the reason why I said speaking of, is because they did go into a phone booth to make a call.
Huh.
And so they totally missed smartphones in terms of predictions. Like they still had a phone booth that was used for calling people, which is a thing of the past.
Yeah, aside from the hoverboard was like the only really futuristic true prediction. I mean...
And the self-lacing shoes, those are cool.
Yeah, that's because it was a product placement.
There was so much product placement in that movie. Did you notice, Nick?
Yeah, just so much. Yeah, just so much.
Like, I'm going to have a Pepsi.
You know where 1640 Riverside...
Are you gonna order something, kid?
Yeah. Give me a tab.
Tab? I can't give you a tab unless you order something.
Right, give me a Pepsi free.
You want a Pepsi, pal? You're gonna pay for it.
It's like... Another thing you don't notice as a kid is like how much product placement there was. I feel like they're more subtle with product placements now. Maybe not. I don't watch too many popcorn movies.
They are a little subtle. In some cases, they're heavy-handed.
I imagine like the MCU is heavy-handed with it.
They're hit and miss with that. But the thing I just constantly feel like I'm just hit over the head with are all of the amazing shows on Apple TV. They're amazing shows, but it's just like iMac over here. iPhone right here.
Oh, it's like
it's
Apple
just nonstop. Yeah.
Is it really? I didn't notice that.
Oh yeah.
That's funny.
Did you watch the Back to the Future Part 2 with the lens of the dad being replaced?
I did.
Okay.
I appreciate you gave me that lens because I totally noticed it. I don't know if you've heard this, Nick, but there was like contract disputes between Crispin Glover and the people, and so he wasn't actually in the movie. It's somebody else. Upside down. They put him up. They put him upside down, so you'd never notice. And of course, he's also in clips because they go back to 1985 and 55, and that's like previous footage, So he's in it in those ways. But yeah, that was cool. And then I told my kids afterwards, and they're like, "Wow!" I was like, "Yeah, I'm smart. I knew that.
I'm smart. I knew that."
Mr. Stakoviak told me that.
That's right. On Friends on this show
That's right.
with Matt.
Anyways, phone booths. They missed it.
Yeah. Right. Wow.
Well, let's talk web browsers, shall we?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
We have our old friend, Nick Nisi, the JS party animal himself. Hold on a second. Your browser's not letting you record.
I'm in Arc.
Oh, God. Recording in Arc?
Yeah.
Dude, that's risky business. Actually, I did it all day yesterday, so I'm also risky business.
We need to have that recorded. That would have been a good clip.
As we talk about browsers, yeah.
His local
Right.
is still going, right? We can probably use this.
My local is going.
Ask Nick Nisi to refresh the page.
Nick Nisi, refresh the page.
All right.
Oh, I just told him. I didn't ask him. Sorry about that.
I have to ask.
I declared it.
He's gone. He's back.
Hello.
What do you think happened here?
That's a great question.
I don't want it to happen again.
No.
Did Arc say anything?
I think I know what happened, actually.
Okay. Debug this.
I clicked a link. Well, first off, when I opened Arc, I clicked the link from the calendar, right, to go into this.
Yeah.
And Arc does this happy little thing called a mini Arc or little Arc or something.
Right.
Okay.
I couldn't figure out how to work that.
Yeah.
What is that?
It was not the real Arc. Like when you open it, it's like, oh, here's like a preview window. So like if you're doing something quick, you can just do that and close it and it's gone.
Okay.
And so I was actually having this whole thing loaded in there, but then I clicked another link to go rubber stamp a PR real quick before we started. And it was like, oh, I should take over that little Arc because I'm the new link.
I see.
But Riverside was like, I'm recording. Like you have to, the on exit or whatever handler.
Too fancy.
Yeah.
Too tricky. Too clever by far.
I'm recording. I love the inner voice of these browsers. I'm recording.
Do you always personify software, Nick? Is that the thing you do?
I do. It's my only friend.
I personify a lot of things, honestly.
Oh, that's hilarious. I'm recording. Well, you're still recording locally though, Nick, right? The whole time?
Absolutely.
Always be recording.
This is going in the show then, because this is great. This is browser discussions, like 101, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
A new browser, trying to be useful, trying to be different, trying to be, I don't know what it's trying to be, little. It's trying to have a little preview window, ends up screwing something up for you. So one thing I've noticed, so by the way, we've been using different browsers. We've been kind of talking about different browsers. Some of them that Nick put in, I didn't use because I'm not going to sign up for your paywall. I'm sorry. Like I was like, yeah, I'll try these. And I actually false started on both of them, which we can talk about. But what you realize is just how like used to a specific tool. Okay, I say you realize. What I realized is how much I'm just used to my workflows. And different is sometimes better, but in most cases, I'm just like, nah, I just don't like it. I just don't like different. And so I'm kind of becoming crotchety, I think. And
Definitely becoming crotchety. I resonate with that, Jared. We actually debated because we're going to be too similar, I think, in our likes and dislikes for browsers than Nick might be, because I think he's just generally more adventurous with software,
yeah,
at least in this regard.
Probably true.
that's why you got the invite, Nick, by the way. If you're wondering why we invited Nick Nisi, our great friend from JS Party, the TS Party animal himself, it's because he is adventurous with software and tools, and he's always trying new stuff. So
Right.
we thought you'd be a great person to talk about web browsers with. Sorry, Adam, I cut you off. Keep going.
Oh, just to say that I resonate, that I think that I've got my own workflows and simplicity with Safari that I don't think it's the best browser, but it's the best browser for me. I think it's got a lot of pros, but it's also got several cons. Like I'll often go to a website in particular and it's like, well, this site doesn't work. Well, I immediately think, okay, it's a Safari issue because they're just generally, I even hate to say this, they're kind of behind in a way, like where Chrome and those things tend to lead with standards in some way, and WebKit's kind of behind. Maybe I'm wrong. Am I wrong, Nick?
I've got
Do you
words
feel
to
that?
say here.
Okay, let Nick talk. He's just dying to say it. Yeah, get into it.
He's got his hatchet out. He's going to whack some weeds or something like that. Take us through the jungle. What's the situation?
Well, this morning, actually, in my work Slack, I was sharing some of the browsers that I shared with you, and they're paywalled and all that. And I did try them all, and I recommended not actually trying them. But one of them
tried them all.
is just amazing from a design perspective. Anyway, somebody was saying that they use Firefox, and they're like, oh, if you want this thing that this browser does, you just use this plugin for Firefox. And then somebody else asked, like, what happened to the Chrome versus Firefox like war that was going on? And I immediately jumped in and said, Firefox lost when they laid off their whole development team and decided to make a VPN instead.
Yeah. They did kind of lose a thread there, didn't they? Like
They did. Like, they were on top of things. I remember way back, like years ago, when, what was it, CSS Grid came out, and they were like partnering with Wes Boss to like get course material out for free on like how to use it properly. And here's all these amazing dev tool things that the Firefox dev tools can do and all of that. And then all of a sudden it's like 2022 and we're all waiting around like, we can use container queries as soon as Firefox ships them. And they're like last. And Safari way up top. They're great. They're done. But everybody, we're just waiting for that last horse, not to foreshadow one of the browsers we're going to talk about, but to cross that finish line.
Oh, well, that makes me think of Horse.js, which I won't bring up because Horse.js apparently seems to be dead as a casualty of the hostile takeover of Twitter.com. Horse.js, I think, is dead at this point, but maybe if any listener out there knows Horse.js on a new social network. Hook us up because that's was my favorite Twitter account for a long time. But and also while we're punning, if Nick sounds hoarse, it's because he is recovering. He's recovering from an illness. It was an airborne virus that he picked up called the TypeScript Exodus.
Oh,
He couldn't, it made him physically ill seeing all these TypeScript bashers on the interwebs. No, just kidding, Nick.
yeah. I haven't been replying to anyone, but I've just been hoarse yelling at my phone the entire time. What are you talking about?
So those of you who are changelog only listeners and don't partake of the JS party, Nick and I have a dramatic foil that I invented, probably me, because he's such a TypeScript fan that I became the TypeScript anti-fan.
Of course.
And just consistently troll him for years now about TypeScript. Having no knowledge, very little knowledge of the thing, I don't use it because I can't, because I'm against it. And one of my predictions was that the TypeScript backlash would happen. Every lash has a backlash, okay? And TypeScript will have its day, and I'll be here waiting.
I'll have a whiplash.
Not actually because of anything about TypeScript, because this is just the cycle of software is like the rise and fall. And we can't wait for those blog posts of the switch to TypeScript and then the inevitable switch off of TypeScript. Like it's just going to happen. And my prediction came true with the loudest voice in many communities, you know, the blog of DHH last week. So
Yeah.
not our topic for
Some
today.
random guy.
Yeah, Nick's favorite person. Not our topic for today, but just a funny troll. So I got my day in the sun is right now, so I have to rub it in. But Nick actually contracted, unfortunately, COVID last week while he was on vacation. So that's the actual reason why his
Yep.
voice is a bit hoarse today. So bear with us. But we're here to talk about web browsers, and Nick loves trying new tools. A great episode, actually, of JS Party, if you want to dip your toe in the water, is when K-Ball went through your toolbox. Nick Nisi's toolbox. I can't remember the name of that episode, but it's like a deep dive into all of Nick's tools, and it's just amazing. All the stuff that you use and try and tweak and can recommend. We can all learn a lot from you. So
Yeah.
we want to do a show about web browsers because there seems like there's a new kind of breed of browsers coming up, probably led by the Arc browser, which was in like a private waitlist only beta for a long time, but has since become publicly available and has some cool ideas in it and just a different way of doing things that's quite dramatic, maybe too dramatic for me if I foreshadow the conversation a little bit. But I started thinking, what do you want from a web browser? Why do we make these decisions, etc.? And we thought that'd be a good conversational topic. And so invited Nick on. We've all been trying different browsers that we probably wouldn't try otherwise, and thought we'd discuss, like, what do we actually want out of a web browser? What priorities do we have? Because it seems like everybody's a little bit different. So there's your setup. Nick, do you want to kick off and just maybe give a little bit of your daily browsing use and then maybe what you've been up to and what you're thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. So I, just like Adam, am a devout Safari fan. I really like Safari.
Oh my gosh.
No way. This is an upset.
So we're 3 Safari users here. This is going to be like the worst conversation of all time, as our listeners are all against us. And we praise Safari, the 3 of us together. Sorry, go ahead.
No, we will have some, because I have to caveat it that for the past couple of months I have actually been using Arc, but Safari is my true home. I'm just not brave enough to install the latest beta of macOS to get all of the new Safari features, but
Right.
possibly today it might be announced when that's coming out.
That's right. It is an Apple announcement today as we record. Yeah.
Yeah, you're always the one that's on the edge with Mac OS too. That's right. Like me, I just finally got to Ventura. What is it lately? What is the latest one?
I've lost track of the name.
I think it's Ventura.
Is it Ventura? Yeah, it took me a little while to get there. Yeah, Ventura.
Yeah, Ventura 13.5 is
Yeah,
Ventura.
whatever one was previous to this, it's Monterey. I was stuck there for a bit because I just couldn't. I mean, when you do production, you kind of have to lag a little bit because there's always bugs in software, as we know.
Yep.
And so we just can't really handle that in production flows because it's not my test machine. It's a production machine in most cases.
Absolutely.
Right.
Same. And for me, the thing I use to record, which does have some pretty deep, like internal, so it always breaks with every update is Audio Hijack and all of the Rogue Amoeba products. They have to install this ACE thing that can get into the sound and all of that. And so they're almost always broken. So as soon as they say, hey, our stuff is good, then I'm like, all right, let's go. Because everything else is fine. Browsers work. Everything else works. Safari works.
So Safari's your daily driver, though. I can't believe this. I was not expecting this. That Safari. I thought you'd be like the person that was against Safari. Okay, what makes you for Safari?
A couple of things. It's not Chrome, which is like a big plus.
Okay.
It syncs seamlessly with my phone, which is forced to run Safari no matter what. No matter what browser you install.
Right.
It's running Safari. It's fast, doesn't take up my battery, and it feels good to use because probably it's not Chrome.
Okay, that's it. That's the show. We're done. I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, that's how I feel about Safari as well. It's like,
yeah,
they kind of make you use it by force, right? Like when you use anything on your, and I'm an iPhone user. I'm sure both of you are as well, based on what you just said. Jared, I know you are.
Yeah.
You can't use anything else. Even if you install a different browser, you're still using Safari.
Yep.
It's just Paint.
On your phone.
On your phone, sorry, yes, to clarify.
The Safari rendering engine, there's aspects of it that can be quite a bit different, but the actual tech underneath whatever facade, the Firefox, is there still a Firefox iOS app, or is that gone now?
It's a good question.
There was a Firefox mobile browser. Anyways, there's Chrome, there's Brave, there's Arc, probably, maybe, I don't know.
Sort of.
It's essentially just UX on top.
Yeah, they're all Safari. The rendering engine, they're all just like calling Safari calls underneath the hood by fiat because Apple says so. Like none of them want to be, but they are.
Yeah. Do I think that's the best decision by Apple? No, probably not. But it does keep Safari relevant, I guess.
Well, I wonder if it's really about, they can really layer anything because of security. But I think it does really help the platform be more stable to some degree. Like if you had just a Wild Wild West with, any old web browser, bring your own rendering engine, it might cause some issues, right? Like I can imagine there being security concerns with that, right? If just
for sure
anything can be installed on iOS. And they're really about control from the lens of security, but I think it's also control, right? To maintain the monopoly.
It's good for Apple.
Yeah,
right?
it's a good thing.
It's good for Apple
Yeah.
for multiple reasons to do that. And so that's why they have that stranglehold. The side effect, Nick, is what you just said, is actually, even though that's unfortunate, it does provide enough of a market share for Safari that adds diversity at the OS, like the desktop OS, because otherwise Safari wouldn't matter enough at all for anybody to care about it. And Chrome would basically have the monopoly there. Chromium would specifically, right?
Yep. And at this point, that's all that matters too.
Right. Because Firefox does not have a mobile footprint, right? They have a desktop footprint still. I don't know what the percentage is today. It shrunk from its heyday. Did it hit high watermark of like 20, 30? It was like the percentage of global market share. Firefox high watermark was pretty high, wasn't it? Maybe 15%? I'm just going off memory.
Yeah.
Back in the heyday, and then Chrome just came and just decimated the landscape by being better. Give it to Google. Chrome got its market share the old-fashioned way. Well, they had one small advantage, which was google.com. But the old-fashioned way, they earned it, right?
Yeah.
They did.
Google Chrome came and took the market share because it was the better browser for many years.
Yeah.
And kudos to them for doing that. They also had great real estate because it was up in that corner of google.com for years as well. Download Chrome. And that's like billions and billions of dollars of free marketing. But aside from that, they also earned it.
Yeah.
And Firefox lost it. That's kind of my story. So maybe we don't have much diversity in daily drivers, but we probably have maybe diversity in stories because I wasn't always a Safari user.
Well, and I don't use exclusively Safari. I have several browsers open right now, but day to day I have at least 3.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a 2-browser user. Just basically the Dev and Life are my 2 distinctions. And Life also includes work, but Dev is work as well. So I don't really have, some people have like a work browser and a Life browser, or at least a profile.
Yeah.
My distinction is more like development and everything else.
See, and that's why I'm using Arc right now, because they have that great profile thing where you can just switch between, you just swipe on the sidebar and you can go between like a work profile and a personal profile, for example. That's coming to Safari in whatever the next version is. I don't remember the name of it.
Nice.
that'll be amazing. And I have it on my iPad and it's really cool.
And the advantages of that are what?
I can be signed into one Google account over here and another one over here and not have to use their weird little
Switcher.
their little switcher thing. I can have like one profile completely dedicated to shopping so that Amazon can follow me in that profile. But
Right.
I mean, they're probably following me in every profile,
Oh, yeah,
but
they got you.
I feel better.
And they connect those profiles
Right.
eventually as well.
Yeah.
This is a feature that's been in Firefox for a long time as well, right? Profiles.
Yeah.
So Firefox has this feature. Safari has lacked it. I think Chrome also has this feature.
Probably.
You can sign in, I believe, in Chrome with your user, like in the browser, not just like into the website to the browser.
They would love you to do that. Be signed in to your Google account the entire time you're browsing. They would love that.
Right now, I'm person 1 in my Chrome. Person 1.
Yeah. So
Not signed in.
not a unique feature of Arc, but a very cool feature that I don't know where it began. I know that it was a big deal when Firefox added it. I know Chrome's had it for a long time. Maybe not as slick. The thing about Arc as a new browser is it's just slick. Everything it does is like thought through with a design aspect that is very appreciative, which honestly is why I don't use Firefox these days. Is I'm sorry, y'all. I appreciate all of the years of effort. I just find it to be unpalatable to my eyes. I just think it's ugly. And I just don't like to launch the app. I love the icon.
Yeah.
The Firefox icon. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's had its day.
But as a Firefox user for many years, I was like, getfirefox.com guy. Like, tell your parents, tell your friends, quit using an IE, get Firefox. So I was a converter.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Same.
Me too, Jared. That's crazy. Like,
Were you guys all converters?
Yeah.
well, I was a diehard
yeah.
Get Firefox way back in the day. I was really into this grassroots movement of better browser, tabs even, you know, like that was
Tabs. Well, tabs were the bomb. And then
all the
extensions or
plugins,
add-ons.
you know, down them all. I used to download a lot of stuff back in those days. I had to down them
Yeah,
all.
download them all. Oh,
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun.
Stumble Upon.
Stumble upon, yeah.
Do you guys have Stumble Upon extension where you just hit the
Yes.
button, it sends you to a new website
Yeah.
over and over again? That was amazing back in college. I was so bored.
Firefox standalone that I'd put on a flash drive.
Yes.
That was
Firefox
awesome.
standalone and plug it into like school computers. Like I'm not
Yeah.
using this thing. I'm using Firefox standalone.
I never did that.
So here's what happened with me in Firefox. I'd love to hear what happened with you guys was I installed so many extensions, add-ons, I can't remember what they call them in their particular place, that I just bloated the crap out of my Firefox and just dragged it to a halt. Sounds like somebody's NeoVim config. Not yours, Nick, somebody else's. To the point where it was so slow that it just became a drag. And then Chrome came out and it was just so fast, which may have partially just been because Chrome doesn't have all these extensions installed. Unfair. But Chrome was just so fast that I just switched and I never looked back at Firefox for a long time. Now, Firebug held me there for development. I can't remember the whole history of when the Chrome DevTools become so awesome. But Firebug was still great for development, so I still used it for that kind of stuff. But eventually, Chrome DevTools became the gold standard in DevTools, and that really stuck me in Chrome for many years.
Yeah. Same.
Similar? Like, why did you guys switch off Firefox? You were evangelists.
Oh man, this is going to sound like such an Apple fanboy thing, but it didn't feel like it was what Apple wanted me to do in those ways.
Oh, I love it.
There's so many like secondary features that are just built in and you get like native like OS level support for within Safari that you don't get in those. Like the first one that came out, I think, was picture-in-picture mode, right? And you have to like do like a double right click on YouTube to like, you right click once and it gives you the YouTube menu. You right click again and it gives you the browser menu. And then you can say enter picture in picture. And it like does this smooth animation to move the video out and does it all right there. If you do it in Firefox or Arc, they both support it too. It's like this weird like floating browser thing that doesn't always work well. And it doesn't, it just doesn't work right. It doesn't feel right. So things like that, like I was like, okay. And then I kind of discovered the browser syncing between like phone and the Mac. That was amazing. But then like other features, when Apple started doing Apple Pay, like having the ability to just hit the Apple Pay button and scan my fingerprint
Same.
is amazing.
Cool.
Yeah. And then the two-factor authentication thing, when it sends you a text message, which I hate getting those text messages,
And it
but
autofills it for you.
it autofills it. Yeah.
So nice.
Yeah. I do have a workaround for other browsers, but it's just amazing having it built into Safari.
Yeah. Well, that's shows over again. You've just echoed all my opinions with Safari. I mean, it's pretty much the same.
I just want to point out how much of a religious sentence that was. Like, I just didn't feel like it's what Apple wanted me to do. You know,
I was trying to be dramatic.
I know it was great.
I do agree with that, though. They have an aesthetic to their ways, and it translates into their browser as well, which is software, not their typical. This is how we do it with hardware.
And they get a lot of crap for being a bad browser, but if you actually use it, it is not a bad browser. It is literally only apps like Riverside that come up and say, "Hey, you can't use us here." But literally everything else works fine.
Yeah, I agree.
Pretty much. You do find you do bump up against some websites like Adam was describing earlier, where it's like this just wasn't thoroughly tested across Safari. I just hit one recently, even on a Zoom call with some people with a content site. I won't name them. I won't name drop them because it was a bit embarrassing. Where I said, when I scroll back up to the top, I can't see the byline of who wrote this article. Is that a Safari bug? And they're like, at first they're like, no, that's a feature. And I'm like, this can't be a feature because this is a terrible feature. And they have a good design aesthetic. And so I screen shared with them. It was like 3 people on their blog team. And they're like, oh yeah, that's a bug. I was like, well, I said, they're like, you use Safari? I was like, yeah, daily driver Safari user. They're like, what? We've never met one of your kind. It's kind of funny. We got 3 of us here on the show because we are actually a small percentage of people that use Safari on desktop. Like we said before, on mobile, it's a different story, but most people don't. So you do have like the person who just didn't cross-browser test everything. And so there's like a UI that looks a little bit weird every once in a while.
Yeah.
That's about it.
And it's very infrequent. But when it happens, I'm like, it's not the site. It's Safari. I'm never questioning the site when it does happen, like this kind of obvious issue.
Oh, you think it's always Safari's fault? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, well, it's like legitimate websites. It's not like rando indie website or something like that. It's something that's,
Yeah.
I can't do this thing to pick my flight, for example, or, a picker for the date range and some, flight website or just something like that, for example. I'm not going to think, well, this is probably Southwest having the issue. It's probably a browser issue. And I'm just going to swap to Chrome real quick, or in my case, Brave in most cases. I only use Chrome now because I just had an issue with Brave with Riverside.
Oh, really?
So I haven't gone back to Brave since then. I've just been using Riverside in Chrome, but I only use Brave as a Chrome thing for Riverside. That's the only reason I use it. Otherwise, I'm opening Safari every single time and nothing else. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I haven't actually had Chrome installed on a machine since probably 2016.
Wow. It's been a few years for me. Maybe like 2019, 2018.
Chromium, different story.
Yeah, Chromium is a different story, isn't it? Well, we have that in common. I think if we talk about what we want in a web browser, I think what at least the 3 of us, and this does seem to be a growing sentiment, even amongst people who use Chrome still, usually for the dev tools and just for they've just been using it. Sometimes you're just used to a thing. What we don't want is an advertising company inside our browsers, right? Yeah. I mean, that to me is like, that's what I don't want.
Yes.
And that advertising company has manifested again. This was just news last week on Ars Technica. Google gets its way, bakes a user tracking ad platform directly into Chrome now. They call it the privacy sandbox, which is a nice bit of marketing. But, because third-party cookies are going by the wayside, Apple's made it very difficult for third parties in that way. And Chrome is now saying we're going to be privacy oriented and disable third-party cookies eventually. I think they backed off on it in terms of timing again. And they're just baking the tracking right into Chrome through this privacy sandbox. So that's what I don't want in a web browser, really, is that. And I think that's like not too much diversity on that topic. Like almost everybody is not like, yes, please, more of this. Right? Is there anybody that's like excited about having Google in their Chrome? Maybe people that have like Google accounts and that it's really useful in that way. Like what will be the upside of having Google in your browser is maybe having like the account already, which is kind of the stuff you're talking about with Apple, Nick, because like if you could use Google Pay and you're already signed into your Google Pay, and like if you could have your Gmail and you're already signed. So it's kind of that, only one is an advertising company and the other one's not. I think that's the big distinction.
I think for me that is, and it's probably completely incorrect, but Apple is incentivized to sell me more Apple products, not my data is what I think in my head. They probably want my data for nefarious things too.
Their own sakes.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, they're a product company that's selling me products, not selling my data and analyzing me like crazy. Well, maybe not. I don't know. That's what I think.
I think what you're trying to communicate is like they both have an incentive to get more from you. But with Google, it seems they are willing to give it to third parties without your consent or leverage your data in ways that you're not necessarily opting into. Whereas Apple, you're going to go buy the phone or whatever it might be. Like you're opting into the continued relationship with the incentives.
For sure.
So my story to get to Safari was from Firefox to Chrome, from Chrome to Safari, and it was specifically once Apple showed their ability to have that tight integration between my phone and my desktop, specifically cloud tabs, which I use pervasively and extensively, all the Lee words. To this day, and I know it's been added, like Firefox can do that now, Chrome can do that now. It's not the tight integration with the OS, but it's there. So, kudos for them to add that. But that's what actually brought me over to Safari was like cloud tabs. I even developed a thing called PushPop back in the day, which was a little web app / extension. It was a Safari extension because I had to use Safari on my phone that would allow me to take a web page from my phone and push it. I don't know how, I can't remember. I think I used the extension, say push this, and my desktop would pop it with a little Heroku app in between. Because I wanted that so bad. I wanted to just have a website and say, open this on my desktop. Because when I go back to my desk, I'm going to look at it. And Safari gave me that via iCloud tabs. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm just going to use Safari all the time. And that's when I realized, hey, it's actually kind of a nice browser. But before that, I was like, oh, Safari's the worst. It's so ugly.
It's so strange that we have like the same, not the same path necessarily, but the same feelings about the path. That I was sort of not cool with Safari and came for the nice features of, because it's multiple computers, multiple mobile devices, and I have a laptop I take with me. I have a desktop at home. I've got an iPhone. And, trying to live in a world where I got to sign into a browser or something like that to get that kind of feature set is just not going to be cool.
Yeah.
But I came for those features, and I stayed for the simplicity that Safari is. It's kind of like TVs. Tell me if you guys like this. Nick, you might be more like this and Jared less. I want a TV to be an amazing monitor. I do not want it to be the smartest TV ever. I want it to just be an amazing monitor. That's it. Make my TV shows look amazing, my movies look amazing, and get out of the way. That's it. Just be a monitor.
Yeah.
I want to plug into you. I don't want you to be smart. I don't want you to have Android TV, nothing else. I just want you to be the monitor. And that's kind of how I feel about Safari. It's just a great browser. It's not all the complexities that some browsers just bring to the table.
Yeah.
It's messy. It can be messy.
This is actually an analogy I was going to bring up when you asked like about browsers doing all of that spying or knowing everything about you. Like when you go buy a new TV, I just bought a new TV and it's LG, it's a decently well-known brand. It's not like a TCL or like one of the, I don't even know TV brands, but I assume the lower.
Shame us, us TCL users.
Shame
us owners.
Those fools used by TCL.
I don't own a TCL. I think I do have a TCL in my RV, but that was because it came with it.
But all of the TVs, they're cheaper because like it literally asked me, it had a privacy thing like, hey, we're going to screenshot your TV and we're going to look at what you're watching and then recommend, hey, you just watched The Dark Knight. Do you want to watch The Dark Knight Rises? You can buy it here from our store.
Right.
And it's creepy and I don't want that. So
I know.
This TV, like I can just pull the plug on it and keep it off the internet, which I do. I do it through Eero's software though. Like just,
I was gonna say you like literally pull the plug on your TV when you're done using it.
I could, but I just do that. And I exclusively use an Apple TV on it anyway. So
yeah,
that's how I get all my data. Good job again, Apple.
You give it all to Apple,
Yeah.
I'm with you. How many Apple TVs do you have?
5.
Okay. We're simpatico here, Nick, because I've recently gone to the dark side though. Let me tell you. In my media room, I have a NVIDIA Shield, and it is actually really good, but they're basically an ad platform. Like it's same thing. Like I'm going to sell your stuff. The home screen, you can't control the home screen. I'm going to advertise you shows you don't really care about. When your kids come in the room, you can't control this content that's being advertised to you.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
It is.
But it plays some other things just amazing. It's got better support for all the video codecs and stuff like that, whereas Apple has a little bit limited on the 4K level. So the NVIDIA Shield is, and it's got some really amazing AI upscaling. It is uncanny how good it is. Like, it will take HD,
scale it up.
and I've never seen it work this good, but it makes 4K content at HD, and it's just so good. So good.
Wow.
So I have a bunch of old DVDs, and I wonder if will it take my DVDs and upscale them to 4K?
It just HD.
I haven't touched a DVD in 10 years.
Well, it's funny. I have them all ripped, like I can still see
You were just talking about this recently, Jared. Yeah.
on my bookshelf over there. Yeah, I can't remember if it was on the show or not, but
It was just me and you.
I ripped all these. I took all the time, handbrake my old DVDs, digitize them, categorize them, libraryize them, so I can watch them on, in perpetuity. I haven't watched one in a very long time. I forgot how bad 720p
Lord of the
is.
Rings.
And then I
That's what it was.
Yeah. And then we over the last Christmas holiday, we decided to do a Lord of the Rings marathon. And I'm like, cool. I loaded up. I have all the extended editions, all 9, whatever. I loaded up the first one on our TV in the basement, which is large. It's like an 85-inch, 4K. And I could not believe, like, if you stretch a 720, is it 720p, I think, would be
720p,
DVD quality.
yeah.
You stretch a 720p to 4K, 85-inch screen, and like the pixels are like the size of a tater tot. It's like that big. Like, you can see every pixel.
You didn't say a quarter. This is a tater tot.
Well, they're square,
Okay.
Pauline, give me some of your tots.
No, go find your own.
Come on, give me some of your tots.
No, I'm freaking starved. I didn't get to eat anything today.
What's up, friends? I'm here with VJ Raji, CEO and founder of StatSig, where they help thousands of companies from startups to Fortune 500s to ship faster and smarter with a unified platform for feature flags, experimentation, and analytics. So, VJ, what's the inception story of StatSig? Why did you build this?
Yeah, so StatSig started about 2.5 years ago. And before that, I was at Facebook for 10 years, where I saw firsthand the set of tools that people or engineers inside Facebook had access to. And this breadth and depth of the tools that actually led to the formation of the canonical engineering culture that Facebook is famous for. And that also got me thinking about, how do you distill all of that and bring it out to everyone? If every company wants to build that kind of an engineering culture of building and shipping things really fast, using data to make data-informed decisions, and then also informed to what do you need to go invest in next. And all of that was fascinating, was really, really powerful. So much so that I decided to quit Facebook and start this company. Yeah, so in the last 2.5 years, we've been building those tools that are helping engineers today to build and ship new features and then roll them out. And as they're rolling it out, also understand the impact of those features. Does it have bugs? Does it impact your customers in the way that you expected it? Or are there some side effects, unintended side effects? And knowing those things help you make your product better.
It's somewhat common now to hear this train of thought where an engineer or developer was at one of the big companies, Facebook, Google, Airbnb, you name it, and they get used to certain tooling on the inside. They get used to certain workflows, certain developer culture, certain ways of doing things, tooling, of course, and then they leave and they miss everything they had while at that company. And they go and they start their own company like you did. What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on that kind of tech being on the inside of the big companies and those of us out here not in those companies without that tooling?
In order to get the same level of sophistication of tools that companies like Facebook, Google, Airbnb, and Uber have, you need to invest quite a bit. You need to take some of your best engineers and then go have them go build tools like this. And not every company has the luxury to go do that, right? Because it's a pretty large investment. And so the fact that the sophistication of those tools inside these companies have advanced so much, and that's left behind most of the other companies, and the tooling that they get access to, that's exactly the opportunity that I was okay, well, we need to bring those sophistication outside so everybody can be benefiting from these.
Okay, the next step is to go to statsig.com/changelog. They're offering our fans free white glove onboarding, including migration support, in addition to 5 million free events per month. That's massive. Test drive Statsig today at statsig.com/changelog. That's statsig.com/changelog. The link is in the show notes.
But without all of that creepy advertising, TVs would be a lot more expensive.
That's true.
And there's even a TV now that has its own dedicated ad player at the bottom that you can get for free.
Really?
The TV's free?
The TV is free, but it like has sensors and stuff. So if you try and cover up the thing that plays ads at the bottom, it doesn't work. It shuts down.
Oh my goodness.
So like you just have to be accepting of that. And it does all of like the UI for the TV, like the channel menu and all that is down there, and it lets you play games on it and stuff.
Think how profitable that has to be in order to be literally like free hardware is worth it for them,
Exactly.
because they can make so much money on advertising and tracking.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
What a world to shift from, right? Like we had box TVs back in our parents' day. Like they were furniture, right?
Oh yeah.
It was a cabinet, like made of wood. And now, like the thing is like drastically changed. Like the TV of today is not the TV of yesterday by any means.
Oh yeah. But now extrapolate that out to a browser. Like they need to be doing this stuff to keep the browsers free, right? Except in this case, it's weird because like Apple, it's a write-off for them because they make their money on the products. Google makes all of their money on the advertising, which the browser does help feed, but also, who knows? Google might abandon it tomorrow. Mm-hmm. They're known to do that stuff.
Which brings us to all these browsers that I refuse to use is because they asked me to pay them money right up front.
Yeah.
There's the problem, right? Like I saw that and I was like, you want my credit card? I haven't even tried it yet.
Or an account.
But that's where this stuff is going.
I know it's going to subscriptions. Yeah, account as well. So Arc is part and parcel, which brings me to Arc browser. What's their long game? What's their model? What's going to happen? Do we know?
And I also think about this, like I do like Arc, but if I'm not paying them, I feel weird about using them because A, they either won't survive and so I'll get used to it and not like it, or B, I'm going to pay for features that I don't actually need or want.
They'll add a privacy sandbox in there for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what their game plan is, but I do know the challenge of a browser company such as, name some of these that you shared. These are like developer browsers. Polyplane, I think, was one.
Yeah.
What was the other one? Sizzle?
Sizzy.
Sizzy. And so these are like browsers for developers. And I love the concept. It's like, we should make a browser specifically for web development. Why not? And that's cool. But then the immediate paywall, I'm just like, DevTools is good. You know, like that's an uphill battle for them, don't you think?
I think so. I think that a lot of people have a problem paying for software like that, like browsers, right? But when you think about it as, this is a dev tool, if it actually provides enough value, which I think that both of them do, they both have pretty much identical features.
Yeah.
I think Sizzy is a little bit nicer, like just in like its interaction and its UI, like its UX is better a little bit, but they're both Chromium browsers that support this ability to show you the browser, show you what you're editing, and have dev tools with it. But then they can also do things like, here's a phone, here's a desktop, here's a tablet, and see them all at once and see them all sync together. And then like, if you're developing like the Open Graph stuff, right? The Open Graph links, you can see that. And here's an example of what it would look like on Twitter. Here's what it would look like on Facebook.
That's cool.
Yeah. So you don't have to like go out and do all of this. You can do it with your local host running app and see exactly what it looks like and make sure that's all working. So that's really cool. And then just the convenience of having like, this is not my daily driver browser. This is something that I'm using exclusively for development. So having a development specific browser for it makes sense. It can do really cool, like advanced screenshotting things because it knows you're going to want to take screenshots and mark up things and send it over, to your UX team or whatever to verify things like that. But also just like the simplicity of having a separate browser for development exclusively, especially like on Mac OS. Command tabbing over to that is way easier than, what is it, Command tilde to, or is it Shift tilde? I can't remember which one to go between like this Chrome window versus that Chrome window or whatever.
Right, Command tilde, I believe.
Yeah.
That's all cool. And I don't want to sound like I'm denigrating someone for having me pay for their software. I'm totally fine with paying for software that provides value.
For sure.
Two things that give me pause in this case. First of all, is we were just trying them out for a podcast, so it wasn't like I was looking for a development browser. So it's kind of like, eh. And secondly, provide a way. So, I mean, Polyplane has a free trial. It's not very expensive, $9 a month for an individual. Once you get into the business, you're getting, $39 a month, probably that's your entire team. So that's 3 computers per user, 10 users. So $39 across 10 people, reasonable. And then of course they have the enterprise. If you have more money than Apple, you can get that one. But free trial, great. But then like an account thing right at the start, like whatever happened to let me try your software? Yeah, because they could easily just do a thing that works. You just download the app, it works for 14 days, and then it asks you for money. Like that's, to me, is better than this account thing right away. It just drives me nuts.
Yeah, I agree. Could be easier. And I think you'd get better turnover on things like that.
Right.
I think I heard about Polyplane on a podcast, and Sizzy was actually in, I don't know if you guys have ever tried SetApp before.
Mm-hmm. I haven't. Describe that.
It's a subscription app store for Mac OS that lets you pay like $10 a month and you get access to all of these apps. And I finally broke down after I was like, wait a minute, I pay individually for like 10 of these apps. So paying way cheaper, $10 a month, when you're talking about like $50 subscription here, $20 subscription there, $70 subscription there, like, you put them all together and I just get this one thing that's always up to date and it's keeping them up. It's really nice, but it has several different apps in there, and Sizzy used to be in there. And that's when I first played with it. And then the developer, I think, pulled it out, but I've since continued paying for it and I really like it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So of these two, is Sizzy the one that you said one of them is beautiful and awesome?
I think they're both great. And I think that both developers are.
Sizzy seems to be better marketed, at least.
Yeah. I think they just have better UI.
Like their site looks better. Their Sizzy and Polyplane are pretty similar in.
Polypane.
My bad. Yes. Polypane. It's not a great name, in my opinion. No.
Well, because there's all these panes that you're looking at.
Too many polys and too many panes. Anyways, I get it. I understand the name. It does make sense, but it's just.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, it's hard.
Polyplane is actually a cool name,
Yeah. It's like Poly Jane, but not Poly Jane. It's Polyplane. Anyways, very similar. And even pricing. Their pricing is similar. I think they both make the same mistake y'all talked about, but I think the lesson could be learned from Raycast. I think Raycast has a phenomenal model for the way they deliver.
Uh-huh.
They give a lot of good stuff away for free. No account required. And you could just use it. They want to be ubiquitous on Mac machines. They want to make every Mac supercharged.
Yep.
Smarter, they say. I didn't agree with that model right away. It's like, you guys are giving away way too much for free.
Yeah.
But now I get it. And I think Sizzy and Polypane could, and even Arc, I think any of these browsers who want to compete with the likes of Google or Safari, when it comes to browsers, Firefox, you've got to give away something for free with no account. That's just amazing. And then if I'm down for paying, because I'm like you, Nick, I don't want to adopt Arc and like a year later they die because I was too stiff to pay him something. I think that's the business model none of these guys are getting right. But what does it take to get the right browser business model? In the case of these dev web browsers, I totally get it. And my advice on the Raycast model, they should listen to, write down twice, and do it. But every other browser, I'm just not sure how you build a business around a browser.
Certainly not easy.
Yeah.
Do you remember back in the day when Opera was a paid browser?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never paid for it once.
Is this confessions of Nick Nisi?
I used it, but I never paid for it.
I never used it.
Okay.
I shied away from it.
Well, you didn't say that part. I thought you were just like telling us your piracy days.
Things were different then, though. Like you were probably younger, so you had less, resources.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think the web was new then, so everything was free.
Are you saying in the past Nick was probably younger?
Well, I don't know if it's an age thing, really. I think it's more of like just an internet age even. Like things were different and we didn't, like why would you pay for Opera when you had so many other free options. And I think there's a maturity to our need as a human race to the internet now that's different than it was probably 10 years ago, whenever that was the case, or 15. I don't even know how long ago that was. Gosh, if it was 15 years ago, it's a long time. But anyways, I think there's a change now where we want to, because we realize now that we, like when you buy the TV and you get it for $100 when it should have been 1,000, because you're the eyeballs, you're the product they're selling. They're subsidizing their thing with X. And I think that just culturally, we're becoming more and more aware of this, and we're willing to pay more or some at all when it was used to be free, because we want to see it live. We don't want to be, taken advantage of with our data or our security. We want to have more control over the home screen. Like, I'd pay $100 more for an NVIDIA Shield if I could just control the home screen. Like, when we open it up, like, it's never bad things necessarily, but my kids are like, what's that? And it's like a war movie or something like that with guns. Like, I'm not trying to show my 7-year-old anarchy and guns at this moment in his life. He'll find that out at some point, but like in due time, not right now in our media room. You know what I mean? I think that we are willing to pay for things now than we weren't willing to pay for 10 years ago, because we have a maturity both personally and culturally.
I found the history. This is from the Register. Opera browser goes free with version 5.0 launch. Any guesses on what year this was?
2009.
You're off. Adam, one guess. Nick's wrong.
Well, what's the version?
5.0. Nick's off. Oof. He says 2009.
2015.
You're way off. It was the year 2000.
In the year 2000. What?
This is written, if I've got this right, yes, even in the URL, 2012-6. December 6th, 2000 is when John Lettis wrote this for the Register. Opera browser goes free. Jared here in post-production. I did a little more research after recording, and while it's true that version 5 had a free option in the year 2000, it was ad-supported, and you could still buy a license to ditch the ads. Opera version 8, which came out in 2005, was completely free without ads. So Nick, how old were you in the year 1999?
I was in 8th grade.
Okay, so no one, that's why you never paid for it.
You're definitely not paying for it.
I'm pretty sure I had a Windows 95 computer.
Let's replay that again.
Ancient history.
Do you remember when Opera was paid? I never paid for it.
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 The hindsight makes that so
I was
much
in
more
middle
funnier
school,
now.
so yeah, it's so good.
That was good. It was funny in the moment too.
I think your guess of 2009 was about what I was expecting to find. I was like, I'm going to go find this. Off by a decade. That was ancient history. Wow.
I swear that I thought it was paid when I was in high school.
And it's way more than 10 or 15 years ago, which is when I said that would be a shame if it was 15. It's more like, 23 years ago.
Yeah.
Ooh, that makes me feel just...
Well, I would also confess I wasn't paying for much software in 8th grade.
No. Yeah, exactly.
I didn't have internet until 2002, probably.
Well, that's another good reason not to pay for it. You don't have to use a web browser. That's funny.
The business model of Sizzy, though, and the business model of Polly Payne, gosh, that's painful to say. Sorry, Polly Payne. I think has legs. I think they got a great idea.
I like the idea.
To make a dev browser for developers, that totally makes sense. Because you got specific desires, and maybe you need, DevTools++. Don't take that, because we own the ++. Aside from LimeWire++ or whatever that was, Jared. What was that back in the day?
I did read that Mojo, Mojo with the fire emoji.
Yeah.
That those guys are calling themselves Python++. And I was like, you can't do that. We already did. And I was like, wait a minute. C++ also did that before we did. So
we don't own ++.
Okay, fine. We don't own the trademark on incrementing things.
Can I try? Maybe I can do this live here on the air, Jared, since you like to use it all the time.
What's that?
Change all ++. It's better.
Oh, that's a good one. I'll use
It's kind of like that.
Whoa.
That was my voice, Nick. And then we just tweaked it a little bit.
Really? I had no idea.
Change all ++. It's better.
Yeah, that's Adam doing.
It's a rough version of that.
That's amazing.
And Jared uses it all the time, and people love it. I don't use it because I think it's kind of silly, but
We don't know that. We don't know that at all.
I never use it.
If you love the It's Better, please leave us a comment because we don't actually know if people love it. I think it's funny, so I always just drop it in there at the end of stuff. But, people may hate it, and they're like, I would sign up for your guys' membership if you would stop playing that stupid little soundbite. So if you feel that strongly, let us know.
Oh, the other one is Chainsaw Plus Plus. There's a version I do. Like I got like a Frankenstein voice or something. Chainsaw Plus Plus.
You try it, Nick.
Oh, I don't know if I could right now.
Look at the Nick on COVID version. You're like, look what's happening to us because you don't support our work. We're dying of COVID over here. Our panelists are they can't even talk anymore. What if we lose our voices? Oh, where were we? Okay, so Sizzy and Polly Payne are cool. I'm definitely still going to try them. It stopped me from this particular. I was just like, I do not like to sign up for an account before I use anything. I want to use something. I'll sign up for an account eventually, but don't start with that. I just have a gut negative reaction to the first thing you want is my email address to try some software out. I'll put it in there eventually. I'm cool with that. But
I believe Warp was the same way. I believe they required you to have an account to use their software. I don't know if it's the case now, but yeah, I like Warp now, so I don't even care. But that's the problem. Like until you like it, then you do care, right? Like you don't want to, especially for every service you sign up for or account, you get in there trickle down emails. It's like, hello, right. Hacker Noon. We have unsubscribed. Okay, I'm about to go on the internet and blast out Hacker Noon, man.
How many times do we have to unsubscribe from Hacker Noon?
We never subscribed in the first place.
No, we didn't. Now we just mark as spam. That's my new move. Nick, do you get Hacker Noon having never subscribed to it? Because it's a thing.
I did. And I think I put it in some black hole.
They won't let us unsubscribe, Nick.
For some reason, we can't unsubscribe from it. It just keeps sending.
They take us to the unsubscribe page. They say you have unsubscribed.
Yeah.
And then in parentheses in small print, it says, just kidding. Like, we're going to keep sending editors@changelog.com this email on the daily, whether you like it or not. Okay. You cannot hide from us, Hacker Noon. Okay. You're going to get it. You're getting this email
You're
newsletter.
getting so many spam markers on your guys' emails.
Anyways, that's the point. Like, I can't sign up for these accounts because it's like, well, I know I'm going to be in their marketing channels, which I'm cool with if I, was a customer.
Yeah. I mean, I like the way that Zed is handling it with the text editor Zed from Nathan Sobo and the folks at Atom, where it's like you can download and use the thing. There is accounts, like you can have an account in there and that will unlock syncing and whatever features they're going to add. And they'll eventually have a paid tier with Teams and stuff. And like, I understand, and I don't have a problem with any of that as a means of building a business around a piece of software, but make me pop in my email address and my username at the moment when it's going to provide me a reason to do so. Right?
Yeah.
That's what I said to Zach about Warp is like, I don't have a problem having an account, but don't make me start with the account. Add the account just in time for me to say, yes, I would love sync feature. Here's my email address.
I would use Warp if it could run Vim.
Can it not run Vim?
Last I checked, it could not.
I'm on the same thing with Tmux.
I mean, I've Vim into things. I'm not doing complex Vim things, but I'm just like, single Vim editor.
It has to be able to run Vim, right?
I mean, it does run Vim, yeah.
Last time I tried it, it couldn't do Tmux though. And so that's when that's my question every time I talk to Adam or Zach about Warp is, can it do Tmux?
That's probably what it was.
Yeah, if you tried Tmux, Vim inside of Tmux, it wouldn't work. Back when I tried it. I don't know about today.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my problem with Warp is it doesn't support Tmux. For me, that's just a deal breaker.
Is that a pervasive thing? Like, do a lot of developers use Tmux? Like, every time I've tried to use it, it's always felt kludgy to me, and I never figured out how to hold it.
Everybody who watched Nick Nisi's most popular YouTube video of all time
is that right?
Plus Tmux, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're a Tmux for life kind of guy, Nick?
Nick makes YouTube bucks on that sucker.
Oh, I have to upload a new video. They just told me, or they're going to cut me out of the ads program. So
why?
Because they're
too
silly.
Old?
Yeah,
they're silly.
Because they're silly.
You're way too happy about this. Shouldn't you be mad?
I am mad, but I just have to laugh through the pain.
How many views are on this video? So Nick made a video years ago, his Vim plus Tmux setup and how he does everything. And it has hundreds of thousands of views, right?
It has 726,000.
Wow.
Which is better than some of your other videos.
Well, you're missing out, Nick.
At one point, I don't think it's true anymore, but at one point it was the most popular Vim video on YouTube. I checked it a couple of times.
I checked it.
All I did,
Put that on a plaque, you know, hang
Yeah.
that behind your head there.
all I did was I searched for Vim, and then I sorted by most popular or most watched, and then I scrolled past hundreds of videos that were not about the Vim text editor, but were like these like dance videos that just had the word Vim in them for some reason.
Sure.
But the first one was me, and then there was one right after that it was a Thoughtbot video, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, it was right up there.
Did the dance videos have more views?
Oh, yeah, they must have. He scrolled past them all.
Probably, yeah.
So after you scroll past these highly popular dance videos with the word Vim in them, then you find your video.
So I found my video.
Okay.
Which was higher than everybody else's, though.
Exactly.
That was back when there probably wasn't much dev content.
You really should go into that more then. Like, since they're making you do a new video or whatever, like if that's, important to you,
Yeah.
I'd do a series, man.
I've been saying this for years. I wanted Nick to take over our Vim with me series. Remember that, Nick?
Yes.
I recorded 2 of them, I think, and I
You never
showed-
even told me. You recorded some of those?
I did. I still have them, I think.
Are they still good?
Probably.
Or were they ever good?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Are they with other people?
Yeah. Real people.
So a little bit of background. We did this. Oh, now I feel bad because these people expected their videos to get published. So we did a Vim with me series in conjunction. This was Adam's idea in conjunction with our Vim episode a couple years ago. And so I have like 4 videos, maybe 3. Vim with me, Seuss Hinton, Gary Bernhardt, Julia Evans, and Nick. I did one with Nick as well.
All very popular too. Not 700,000 popular, but popular.
Yeah, pretty popular, like thousands of people.
Yeah.
Lots of likes. And I thought this is kind of cool, but Nick is more of the Vim addict than I am, and he has this popular Vim video. I was like, why don't you take over Vim with me, Nick, and you can do the Vim with me videos, and you were all about it. I never heard another word. Turns out you went about it, recorded a couple. We need to close the loop on this.
Surprise. I know.
Surprise. Before you have to re-record them or you get demonetized. What's up with this YouTube re-record thing? I don't understand. Like, why is your video going to get demonetized?
He has to upload new ones.
Yeah, my YouTube channel will get.
Oh, your
will get out of-
channel is going to become archived or something
Yeah, not archived, but no longer eligible to gain money.
in the creator program or whatever.
Yes, that's it.
How much money have you made off
I was
this
gonna say.
video over the years?
Just over 1,300
It's not bad.
Oh, I thought you were going to say $12. No, not bad. $1,500
Yeah.
bucks
for doing nothing, right?
on 700,000 views?
Well, you did something. It seems like nothing.
But this was a video that I recorded I had no script. I put together like 80 slides literally an hour before I was doing this presentation. And so there was no thought put into this at all. And it's like far and away the most popular thing I've ever done. So I can never replicate it. It's the problem.
That's going to be like our Instagram reel that has 6 million views right now.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Of the 6.3 million. It continues to go, and I'm just sitting here thinking, like, if you scroll our reels, like the watches, it's like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 6.3 million. It's like we're never going to get anywhere near that ever again.
Yeah.
So it's kind of demoralizing. Like, should we keep posting or should we just retire? I guess you chose to retire, Nick.
I didn't.
Oh, you kept posting after the video?
I have posted 3 or 4 times in the last 8 years.
Sounds like your blog.
Just for context, what is that video, Jared? So that people what is this video Jared's talking about? What is it?
It's a short of Damian Reel, who was a guest on Practical AI, who's a programmer / lawyer who created all the melodies.info. Him and his friend brute forced 471 billion melodies and then put them in the public domain so that nobody could sue each other over copyright infringement on melody creation, something like this. And it's held up in court. And so he tells that story. He's very good at telling the story. I think he's told it probably like TED and other places. He tells it in 60 seconds in a very compelling way. And because it's a cross-section of AI, it's not actually AI, it's brute force, but people thought it was AI. It's on an AI podcast. IP law, copyright and IP law, and music, which everybody has
Yeah.
and a twist ending, because he doesn't mention that he put it in the public domain till the very end.
People are pissed.
So people think that he's a villain. And then he says because he said, I copyrighted 471 billion melodies. And you're thinking, this guy's a villain. And I'm going to sue everybody out of existence. But then at the end, he says, and we put it in the public domain. And so now nobody can sue each other over this thing. And so he's actually kind of a hero in that way. Because of that, this thing skyrocketed on Instagram. It did over 1 million views on TikTok as well, but Instagram is the one that just went insane with over 6 million views.
Yeah.
And it's been a fun ride. Now we have followers that have no idea why they follow us. And so we post our next video and it's like me and Nick arguing about TypeScript. And they're like,
more of this. Oh, man. This isn't the dance video I was looking for.
What's this Jared guy? He's so wrong.
I signed up for more of this crazy music talk.
Y'all missed my joke. It was good. I'm not saying it again.
Oh, I missed it. Sorry.
The podcast don't get it, though. They're laughing.
Play it back with a laugh track in.
More of this. Oh, man. This isn't the dance video I was looking for. Let me get us back on track. Can I get us back on track?
Let me just end this by saying you need to create more videos on YouTube, man.
And soon.
And soon, before it's too late. All right.
Yeah.
Adam, get us back on track.
Let me add one more to your sugar, Jared. I think there is legs with the Vim with me concept. I thought so way back then, and all those videos did quite well, and people loved that deep dive into Vim.
Yeah.
That Jared did as a podcast.
Yeah.
And I think Vim is like the thing that almost nobody can get right away. It always needs guidance, you know? And why not have your friendly neighborhood Nick Nisi to ahoy hoy you, get you. You didn't even say that in the top of this podcast. What's wrong with us here?
Oh no, COVID brain.
Come on, we broke the podcast
We'll
here.
splice it again. We're gonna do a lot of splicing in this episode.
Let me encourage you as well, like Jared did. I think you should do more of those, and if you should do some of that stuff with us on the YouTube. But you know, whatever, it's fun stuff.
If you would watch Vim with me videos, tweet at Nick Nisi on Threads. Where do people tweet at you nowadays, Nick?
Everywhere. I'm everywhere.
Nick Nisi at nicknisi.com on the Fediverse. He's on Threads. He's on Blue Sky. He is still on Twitter, even though he doesn't want to be. I'm just guessing.
Yep.
Yes. So use all the social networks to let him know you want to see Vim with me, Nick Nisi, hosting a tour of people Vimming and how they do it. Especially those 2 videos you already recorded. You should get those out there. All right, Adam, bring us back to browsers. Browserify this conversation.
Okay. I do think I'm glad, Nick, that you felt the same I did with TVs and browser. I think they're the same. Like it's your browser to the visual. The browser is your browser to obviously the web.
Yeah.
I want them to be simple, but what does it take? I think the question really is, what does it take to make it successful? Like, how can you really battle the beast? Safari, Chrome, Firefox, Arc. I don't know. Like, is Arc a contender? What kind of business model does it take? What kind of experience does it take? Like, what does it take to be the browser that we want?
That's a great question. I think that is a very personal question too, that everyone will answer differently, but there's different dials, the same dials that everyone will turn, like plus or minus, I want more of this. I think for folks like us, the dial that will probably turn the most is privacy. We want as much privacy as possible when going through this because we don't want to be advertised to about everything. But we also want, like, as we're all Mac users, we also want something that looks really pretty and has great UX. So that's something that a lot of browsers don't get right. Arc is doing a great job of that. I think Safari is doing a great job. I haven't touched Chrome in a long time. I heard that they're redoing things to be more material, which turns me off like completely from Chrome.
Yeah, there's a big redesign coming out for version 15. And I linked to it in Changelog News. There's a nice Ars Technica write-up. Maybe we'll find that for this show notes as well. It's not doing it for me, but okay.
The aesthetics have to be right? It definitely has to begin there, which is what I like about Arc. It's like it's interesting to take a new visual take on browsing, but it breaks so many of my baked-in user experiences, I suppose, of a browser that is pretty much the same across all of them. They redefine and refine, which isn't terrible necessarily, but it's going to make adoption quite hard.
Right. The biggest interface change at Arc does specifically is tabs on the left-hand sidebar. And I haven't got over it.
And they have some sort of fascination with like this favorites thing in the folders. And when you navigate through tabs, those are included. It's strange. I can't understand it.
Some of that's cool. But just having the tabs on the sidebar is a culture shock for a person who's had tabs at the top in all browsers I've used ever since tabs were introduced. And also tabs at the top in your OS everywhere. Tabs on the side, I haven't been using it as long as you, Nick. I've probably been using it in earnest for a week. I downloaded it a while back. You've been using it for a couple of months. Maybe you just get used to that. I'm constantly looking for my tabs, and they're down in the lower left-hand corner, and I just can't quite get over that. Have you gotten over it?
No, it's very, very confusing. No. And by default, they do this weird thing where they have like tabs, like today's tabs and the actual tabs, and then they have like bookmarky tab things. Like,
right.
They keep them like that. And if you just keep stuff in, I think today's tabs, after 12 hours by default, it just like archives the tabs and they're gone. And you can bring them back, of course, but like, you leave in the morning or whatever and come back at night and you're like, okay, what was I doing? And all of your tabs are gone. Like, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Great idea, but you got to get that implementation right because long-lived tabs are a thing.
You can adjust it to say, oh, this is never delete them or delete them after a day or a week or a month, I think. And so that's good that there's that flexibility, but by default, I found it to be way too short and they just disappear. And then, I feel completely lost about what I was doing. So that's a problem. I think that one thing first off, Jared, you were saying like the tabs on the side. If you want that, but in Safari, there is actually a browser called Orion that is Safari. It's WebKit. It's very Safari look and feel, but with tabs on the side.
I think he doesn't want that. He's like anti the sidebar tabs, right?
I don't want it, but I did not know about Orion. I'm always happy to hear about other web browsers. Another one that we haven't brought up, I forgot to put it in our list, but I found it again while we talked, was Vivaldi. And I think a lot of people like Vivaldi. And I think that Vivaldi is created by the old Opera CEO left or something. I don't know the exact story, and started Vivaldi. And I know there's people that bring up Vivaldi whenever we talk browsers on JS Party. So they're out there. I don't know anything about the browser, but I wanted to bring it up as just, we didn't forget about it. Well, we forgot about it, but we do remember it now. And I'm sure it's good.
We didn't forget about it, but we did forget about it.
Yeah. We forgot to try it. I did, but we didn't forget to mention it.
What in the world does it take to build a company around a browser? Like, wow, like how do they make money?
They sell your data.
Maybe you don't want to build a company around a browser. Maybe you want to build an open source community around a browser.
Is that what Vivaldi is, or open source?
No, I'm thinking about Ladybird.
Oh, yeah. Well, Ladybird is kind of a toy for now, but it will become not a toy, potentially.
Yes. So Ladybird is the web browser being built into Serenity OS, but it's going to be able to run outside of Serenity OS. I think it can run on Linux today, but if it can't, that's going to be a thing. And so this is like just a completely community, open source, hackers browser by a guy who, Andreas Kling, Nick, who worked at Apple on Safari for many years and is building an OS in his free time. And the support that he has might be the kind of, I'm not saying that Ladybird's the one, but I'm saying like that model where he's basically supported by Patreon at this point, I think. We didn't get into his financials very much, Adam, on our interview with him, but it seems to me that he has enough Patreon support that he's doing Serenity and Ladybird. Yeah, it's all right. He's hiring because he has a commercial sponsor at this point. So like maybe that could be a model at least for an actual competitive, like the Firefox startup, basically.
Yeah.
Before it got so big.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So this reminds me of this post from Gabe Kangas, who listened to our OpenTF interview last week. And he said, just listened about OpenTF. A bunch of people band together, forked a major project, and found enough people who were interested in it existing and wanted to be involved. I wish this could happen with a browser. Sure, there's a ton of small indie browsers that are using forks of Gecko and Chromium, but I'm talking about a real organization, a real open source first nonprofit whose job it is to build a browser for the people. No Google slipping in advertising features, no Mozilla taking money from Google, no Brave adding crypto, a browser from the people for the people without corporate ownership and direct control. It's a pipe dream, but it's a hell of a dream. I'm sure it'd be hard, but I don't think it would be impossible. Everybody needs a browser. Why can't it be treated as a public good? Nice sentiment there, Gabe. That's what we need. So who's coming with me?
Jerry Maguire. All right.
Yeah. So, I mean, something like that could be cool. I'd get behind that, but is it going to have iCloud tabs or not? Because
I mean, this person brings up a great point.
He does.
I think that's the thing. The ones that are succeeding and the ones that will continue to succeed are the ones that feel like they have the most legs, right? And that's Safari, Chrome, and I guess Edge at this point. But they're the browser, and in Google's case, the search engine's baby, right? They're there to facilitate that. You can't sell macOS without a browser, and they're not likely to give you Chrome by default. Microsoft kind of does do that, I guess. They abandoned Edge, which was a good decision for them, and went to Chromium, which is great. But it's pretty well assured that 5-10 years from now, those browsers are still going to be there. And all of these other distracting browsers like Arc and Vivaldi and all of them, I hope they're still around. But if they don't find their market or find a way to support themselves, the ones that treat the browser as a write-off to their real business are going to be the ones that stick around.
Mm-hmm. That's how the rich stay rich, Nick, is they just, the deep pockets stay deep that way. There has to be hope for a rise.
I agree.
An upstart.
An upstart. Whether it's an open source community or a small business that's trying to make a run at it. I don't know. It also takes talent. You know, that's the thing that I think Andreas Kling has going for him that we didn't really talk about much, because of course you don't want to just overly compliment a guy when he's on your show and being interviewed, but he's an extremely talented developer.
Very.
You just know by what he's put together. And so that's why I'm kind of like, well, Ladybird, you know, it's never going to be all these things, but it might have an opportunity because this guy understands web browsers. It's not a small feat, because he's even going from the rendering engine up. Like, he's not a Chromium add-on. So like, that is a major undertaking, and it doesn't just require money. It requires talent and dedication. So it is a tall order. I agree with you.
Here's a whole different question. Are browsers going to be relevant in the very near future? Like, how long will a browser be relevant? Like, the desktop eventually is going to, like, will it die? Because I was just thinking about, like, mobile and how important that is. Like, you talk to people that are, this is just anecdotal, this is my rough opinion without any research. You can talk to somebody and they're like, they won't even tell you what browser they use. They just browse the web. They don't know, nor do they care. So I think the behemoths out there are going to collapse you based upon the fact that people just don't know or care necessarily. And it's people like us who truly do care. But I wonder how long the browser will be in its current form, like, that important.
I think that it'll outlast the desktop.
Yeah.
I think, like, Vision OS, right? Safari is a very prominent example of what you can do in Vision OS and how well it can work.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
As long as the web is relevant, then the browser is relevant, right?
Yeah.
So how long will the web survive is really the answer to the question.
I suppose you still go into a web browser, but I guess what I mean by, like, does there need to be a war? Like, could we just secede to these incumbents, essentially? Like, not we, but most of the mainstream.
We've all clearly seceded to the incumbent that is Apple.
Well, or Chromium, right? Like, Chromium is almost, I mean, it's bigger. Is it bigger than what IE was back then in terms of market share?
I'd have to
It's got to be up there.
I think, no, I think IE was probably, at its peak, was probably higher than Chrome at its peak, but I'm not 100% sure. I think Chrome at its peak is in the 60s.
63, according to Stat Counter.
IE in the 90s had to be higher than that, but I don't have stats. I could be wrong.
What makes somebody care about what browser they use? Like, I know what we care about based upon our conversation, but what makes everyday folks who have less of a concern like we do, what makes them care about what browser they use? They just have its utility expected to be there. I use Android. I use iPhone. So I use what they give me. I don't really care. It's the web. You know what I mean? Like, what makes somebody choose their browser when they have a choice? It takes probably a desktop, which is kind of like a dying breed. Like, most people these days are on some sort of mobilized device, an iPad-like thing or an iPhone-like thing, and that seems to be the thing that's rising. Desktop's still used, but mainly by people who make, and make and analyze, I would say. Maybe a rough version of, like, that's where the desktop sort of thrives.
Did we do a disservice, though? Like, your parents get a new computer today, and they're like, oh, my little Jared told me to go to getfirefox.com back in 1997. And
my little Jared. Oh, Jared. My little Jared.
Whatever you do, don't buy Opera.
Yeah, don't buy Opera.
I don't know. Are you saying that today we're not doing that? Like we used to do that, now we're not doing that? Or what do you mean?
I just mean like I'm trying to think of my parents. Like if they get a new computer, are they just sticking with Safari or Edge if they make a mistake of getting a Windows machine, or are they like, oh, I'm going to open Edge and then I'm going to go to trychrome.com or whatever and get that because I told them when I was in high school.
I mean, I can speak to my immediate family is that they're just using Safari on iOS and they don't even know that it's Safari. They're just like, where's the internet or where's the web on this phone? And it's like, well, it's that button. It looks like a compass or whatever it looks like.
Yep.
And then they don't have a desktop. They got iPads. So
you see,
don't need it.
What I said is true.
That's just my experience though. In my little corner of the world, the world's large.
It's probably pretty accurate. It's how it is in my household too. I think we're a version of what's normal for most of the U.S.
Western U.S. view of the world.
And so, like, when you think about Arc and you think about what are the other ones we didn't even mention yet? We have a list. At least I wrote down our list. We had Arc.
We haven't talked about Horse yet.
Oh, yeah, you teased it. We have to talk about it before it's over.
Next, web browser Quiche. Oh, my gosh. I was going to say that.
That's cool. It's like a very minimal iOS browser, by the way. So it is Safari under the hood, or WebKit under the hood. But it's another take on a mobile browser, and its entire thing is simplicity, which is kind of nice when you open it. You're like, oh, there's like not much here. It's like, give it a shot.
Right.
It's a free one. It's free to try, free to have, I think, in-app purchases maybe. But that was just the one mobile one that I thought maybe we would give a shot. Nixt, we didn't try because Nixt is a hacker's browser, NYXT, very cool. I've covered it in Changelog News. It's kind of in the vein of Ladybird, but impossible to run on Mac OS, it seems, without Docker or something. So I got stopped in my tracks to try Nixt.
Without Docker. Would you run a browser in a Docker container? Could you?
It said you could install from Mac ports, and I thought, oh man,
I saw that
what
as
year
well.
is this?
Yeah, Mac ports. I'm like, are they still around, Mac ports? And then Docker, no, I'm not going to run anything inside of a Docker container. If my life depended on it, I would, but otherwise, no.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There have been other takes, too, of other browsers, which we didn't put in this list just because over the years they come and go, essentially, because it's probably hard to fight this uphill battle. But like most of these things are fighting for power features. And I don't think that the power feature user of the browser is growing generally. Like it's certainly not Jared's children and his wife or my children and my wife, or same with you, Nick. It's probably like those folks are just like, where's the internet? Not where's the browser. And then they probably don't care necessarily about privacy because they don't know to care about it. Eventually they will, and then they will care. But then I think when it comes to a browser, I protect my privacy to some degree in a different manner. I use Pi-hole or NextDNS or other things at the DNS LAN level versus the browser level. And even when I'm mobile, I use Tailscale, my VPN through a Pi-hole back wherever because I'm that kind of person. You could do that with NextDNS as well.
Tailscale is so good.
So good. They're a sponsor, by the way. We love them. This is not a paid mention. I love them.
I didn't know that.
I actually went and begged them. I'm like, I love you so much. Please, please, please. I'm just kidding. I didn't say that.
Well, while we're mentioning sponsors, so Raycast has sponsored us in the past.
They have, yes.
We're not talking about them because of that.
Nope.
Warp has sponsored us. We're not talking about them because of that. We just talk about what we want to. And they happen to be people that are companies that we like, they like us, and they sometimes sponsor us. That's just the way it works. But none of this is sponsored mentions.
For sure.
So we're not like Back to the Future Part 2 where they say, try a Pepsi.
Try a Pepsi. So I just wonder, like, should we just like roll over and take it? The Safari Chrome Edge way?
Well, you make it sound like that.
Well, I mean, like, what's a prediction you have for Arc? Like, you've been using it for a couple months. Are they going to be around in 2 years? And if they are, what is it going to take for them to be around in 2 years?
That's a great question. I don't know how they make money. And that worries me.
Right. What they have right now is momentum.
Yeah.
I don't think they have much else, but they do have momentum.
Well, Blue Sky had momentum too.
Oh, goodness.
Sorry. I mean, they have momentum as well.
Oh, I agree. Momentum is a fickle thing.
Thread still has some momentum, and they have the best fighting chance, but still yet, like, I don't see a massive move to Threads even. It's just more fractured. Yeah, I mean, people are using it, but it's not like everybody that was once on Twitter/X, now X, is on Threads. That there hasn't been a great migration.
Right. Threads had a really good weekend, and then it was
Yeah.
like womp womp womp.
And with the TV market and the social network market, maybe it's synonymous with the browser market.
Every market's the same market, is what you're saying. Not just these three.
Well, I mean,
We don't know what's going to happen with Arc. I was trying to find the amount of enthusiasm they have by their users is really high. So that's like a good thing for them to see. I was watching when you launch Arc, sometimes they have like new updates in the lower left-hand corner. I was looking for my tabs and I found this thing that was actually a link to a YouTube video of their CEO talking about their latest release and features. Hundreds of thousands of views, probably more than Nick Nisi's Vim Tmux. And pretty new. And so I see that and I think, wow, this guy has these people, but he's the founder and CEO. So he has a lot of interest and there's a spark there and there's users that love it. And so that's a start. Now, is it enough? We don't know how they're going to make money, like Nick says.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll just turn on a subscription service like everybody else and a subset of their users will do it and then they'll have enough money. But I don't know. They're probably VC backed and stuff. I don't know the business behind Arc at all. Hopefully they aren't VC backed.
Yeah.
Because then they'll probably have a better chance of surviving. But they do have a lot of people using it and a lot of people loving it. Like they have that early Firefox feel. Not that they're the same principles or milieu that Firefox is coming from, but just that excited initial user base that turns into converters, like we were.
Do you think part of that is because they had that false, what do you call it? They had the exclusivity, right? You had to be invited to it. So
The private waitlist thing.
right. That's over now.
yeah, but did that like help propel it? Like, ooh, what's this cool club?
It might have. They did also have like early users that would blog about it because like they were in the club and they wanted to write and they tried it. I mean, I learned about it from Chris Coyer, who was trying it before I was and spoke highly of it. I was like, well, I respect his opinion. He seems to like it. At least he did back when he wrote about it. So that's a thing. I don't know if that's like the whole thing because the exclusivity can give you that initial bulge, that swell of interest. But how long has it been since they've been available for everybody? It's at least months.
Mm-hmm.
And they have still people trying it and using it. So, good for them. We're not here to, they're also not a sponsor. We don't know if they have any money to give us any of their money, but I'm not going to use it right now.
Well, they're not going to sponsor us now, Jared.
Well, I don't care. That's the whole thing.
I'm just kidding with you.
I'm a user.
I mean, if we're giving, you're a user. I'm not a convert. I've been using it for a week.
I like the idea of it.
I kind of want it to survive. It's a little guy. I like the little guy, but I'm pretty much back to Safari for life and Brave/Chromium. Brave is the instance of Chromium I run because they rip out the Google bits for me for dev.
And here's what keeps me on, like newer Mac world too. Like I have older Macs. I'm like, I don't want to use them anymore because it doesn't have Touch ID.
They're unusable.
Yeah, I mean, I have an older, like a fairly old laptop that still has Touch ID. It's old, but not that old. It's Intel. But here's what keeps me is pay with Apple Pay, right?
Heathen.
In Safari. That's like, if no one else can replicate that feature, it's going to keep me there for that alone as a daily driver. And it's just so simple. It's just such a minimal interface. It's the TV. It's not Android TV. It's not the advertisement platform. It's just the TV, right? It's just a beautiful monitor. That's what Safari is for me. And I don't need all the extras. The only extension or plugin or whatever it is I have is 1Password, which would just be amazing if it was like a baked in Apple thing. Like they still haven't gotten passwords right, in my opinion. Like it's the worst.
Buried in the settings app? Come on.
Yes, it's just the worst. Like they're not even trying. But even 1Password 2, I think, has UX challenges as well. Like I love them. It's the best way to do it, but it's still not a good UX in every single case. But I'm getting in 1Password with my biometric, with my fingerprint. I'm not having to, and I'm buying things that way. Not that I'm buying a lot of stuff, but when I do, that process is so much easier. I don't have to go and create an account. I can bypass the account creation. I can still use coupon codes in most cases for these stores. So why would I not just use Apple Pay? Like it's so convenient, not for the payment, but for the not having to be creating an account necessarily to buy one-offs from rando stores that are legitimate. Rando stores.
Okay, here's a divisive question that this audience is perfectly attuned to answer because no one else can answer it probably. And that is, what tab layout in Safari are you using?
Oof.
Yes, this is a question specifically for the three of us.
What
are the options? So I don't know what I'm using.
The options are separate or compact.
You go first, Nick.
I'm using compact.
Oh my god!
And I like it.
And you also
And
listen to your
I
audiobooks
like
at 2x. What a shame.
3x.
3x. Ugh.
See, we're not so the same.
This
you
is
and
where we're
I,
not
Nick.
simpatico, man.
Here I thought we didn't have any diversity on this panel, but now I'm starting to think we've got some. I mean, we got two guys wearing the exact same pair of glasses on this. So our diversity points are way down on this particular episode. But I couldn't imagine using compact. Are you serious? I didn't even know there was a compact until you just told me that there's multiple tab layouts.
Switch to it.
Ugh.
So what does compact do? It puts them up in the toolbar higher. And
It does.
why do you like this?
But it also does things like it makes the top bar, you can control that with the site that you're on. It can color that to a specific color so that you could have like a seamless looking application running in your browser.
How do you control it? Because I go to changelog.com and it's still gray. And I know we have like what setting is that in your manifest or in your...
Oh, I do see that. I do like that, Nick.
It's amazing.
Here's an example. If you went to, again, I'm not advertising this. It's just a tab I had opened. Raycast.com. In Safari with compact tabs, you're going to see what Nick's talking about. And maybe ours too, honestly. Let me see if I can advertise us instead.
No, ours isn't a different color.
Well, it does make it green.
Theirs isn't either for me. Hold on. Mine aren't changing. Is that another setting?
In compact?
No, it's not. They're all gray.
Huh.
I just switched to compact, but they're still all gray. So that might be a separate setting, Nick. Help us troubleshoot.
No, I don't think so.
Even if you go to changelog.com, let me spell it for you, Jared. CH.
I'm on raycast.com. I'm on changelog.com.
Really? What a shame.
Try like socket.dev. That's a good one.
Also not a sponsor,
Yeah.
but a good friend.
Or nicknisi.com.
Never go there.
Yeah, socket.dev does it for me as well.
No, they're all gray, man. They're all gray.
In compact mode, are you sure?
Huh. You might have to restart.
Maybe, wait a second. Are you guys in night mode?
I'm in day
Night
mode.
theme? Okay, same.
Oh, I'm in
Like OS
I'm in-
level settings.
night.
I'm in
Night,
light.
where all hackers live.
I'm in light. I couldn't go there for everything.
I go light mode during the day, night mode during the night. I just feel like that's the way life should be. It's nighttime. It's the right time for darkness.
I'm dark mode in most cases for some things.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a separate like accessibility setting on or something, but it's not happening for me anyways. This is turning into troubleshooting.
I can see why you like it, Nick. That is a good point, but it just litters that top bar up quite a bit.
That's true.
I don't know. If I go back between separate versus compact,
The separate just looks so old to me now.
It is the old school way of doing it. I'm going to try compact for a little while. I'm done with ARC, but I'm going to try compact. see if I like it after a week.
you might be onto something here. This might be okay.
Because I don't want to be so crotchety, so rigid that I refuse to have any change in my life. Because at that point, we should probably hang it up. Don't you think, Adam? Like if we both get there, then we can't really do what we do.
Well, that's what I worry about. I was telling my wife this the other day. I'm like, babe, I'm worried. She's like, why? She thought it was like a sickness or something. I'm like, I just realized that I'm becoming more and more cynical on certain things. And like that list has gotten bigger. And I'm like, I'm worried that like I'm just going to be totally cynical at some point in the near future because I've just got opinions and I'm crotchety and stuck in my ways and I don't like change. So that doesn't lend well. She's like, that's okay. I'm like, okay, cool.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Good answer. What else are you going to say? Yeah, that's terrible.
She's like, I still love you.
See, I feel the same exact way. And I'm glad that we're talking about something as simple as browsers and not other stuff.
Right. More serious things like this TypeScript exodus. Well, I mean, Nick has taken it personally. I mean, people are switching off of TypeScript and he just...
Some random guy who's not relevant switched off. And I saw the perfect tweet against that. And it was, if this project mattered, people would fork it, but there's no fork. So it doesn't matter.
Speaking of the perfect tweet now, on our JS Party emergency pod, which by the time this drops will have gone out yesterday. So it's in your feed. I'm not sure what it's called, but the JS Party with Amel Hussein, myself, Nick was physically ill. He couldn't even handle it. So he didn't show up. And Rich Harris. And Rich actually reads aloud his quote tweet of the guy who Nick doesn't want me to name, where he ends it with the word, which we're trying to figure out right now if we need to bleep it or not, squattery.
I like it.
So if you like that tweet, stay tuned for JS Party or go listen to it in the feed because you'll hear Rich Harris read aloud his tweet, which includes that final word, which
It's a perfect show title.
which we have to decide our policy on bleeping that.
I have to worry about my son too because he starts reading things now. Like he's 7, he totally reads everything, but he reads everything.
Oh yeah.
So like, just
Yeah.
because it's not audible, he's still like, Dad, what is that? There was somebody cooking on. I was watching something over the weekend. I was doing some barbecue, and they were cooking with duck fat. And he's like, Dad, I think that says the FUCK word and fat. Like, what's like? Why would they use that kind of fat? I'm like, for one, that's funny,
Off by a letter.
and two, that's not what it says, bud. Okay, but it was duck fat. I
Hilarious.
read everything. So even the title as okay. One thing I want to mention, and I don't think I didn't get the chance to highlight this because you said that tweet that person said on the Fediverse somewhere. I think there is legs there for a Linux-like take on the browser. I think that's the best chance we have to a browser that isn't an incumbent.
This was Gabe Kangas. He's a listener of the show. It was his idea.
That's a great idea. I think a lot of what he said was spot on. And I think the way you're going to have a good incumbent or a good opportunity to take down an incumbent is going to be that way. That's the Linux version of a browser. Buy them for the people. Open source. Can't be bought.
But it won't run on my phone. That's the only problem.
Get a different phone, Nick.
Well, didn't Fedora have like a web browser? We just talked to him. They had like a web browser, didn't they? Fedora? No, it was WebOS. Never mind. Not Fedora. It was
WebOS.
It was Debian.
That's
My
a
bad.
name I haven't heard in a long time. Oh, Debian.
Debian. Yeah, I don't know. Just so much work.
Well, they're all just packaging Firefox, aren't they? Like, isn't Firefox kind of if you download a Linux today? I haven't run Linux on the desktop for a long time. Adam, maybe you know. You just download Ubuntu, and you say web browser. Are you launching Firefox pretty much, or is there some other stock Linux web browser that's in there?
There's something else, but I think Firefox is usually there too.
Is the other thing Chromium based?
I would be surprised. Oh, Chromium based?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so. What other open source browsers are there besides those two?
Yeah.
All right, well, we have to let Nick go because Apple really wants him to go watch their keynote. It just feels like that's what Apple would want him to do.
Is there a keynote today?
There is.
There's a keynote today. It's coming up here in 15.
Don't joke about that, Adam.
What?
Apple's not going to be happy with you if you don't know about their keynote.
What's planned, Nick? What's the leaks? Give us the inside scoop. That's late for Friday.
Oh, iPhone 15, USB-C, periscope camera, an action button, which is going to be amazing, instead of a mute switch.
An action button. What's it going to do? Anything you want it to?
You can program it to do anything. You can program it to open your camera, to run a shortcut, do whatever.
Oh, that's cool.
So instead of this little toggle switch over here, it's an action button?
Yeah.
That's the rumor. How about new AirPods? I'm ready for some new AirPods.
At least AirPods with a USB-C case. Or you can buy a case for your current AirPods.
But no other changes, just a new case?
I mean, that's the rumor. The software stuff doesn't leak nearly as easy as the hardware stuff because they don't have to make millions ahead of time.
Right. So nothing super exciting, just new iPhone and little small upgrades. The action button is kind of cool. But
the periscope camera, I think, will be cool. 6x zoom, which would be amazing.
Does it literally come out?
No, it like uses mirrors to like make the light travel down the length of the phone and then back up, so it has more time in the lens.
What? They're gonna have a cool video about that.
Oh yeah, they invented it, right? It's gonna
Right.
I can't wait for the cool marketing name for it.
It says Wanderlust. What does that mean, you think?
They're running out of ideas.
They needed a word that was vague and interesting. Wanderlust.
Is that vague and interesting? It's vague. Is it interesting?
Well, it has the word lust in there and wander. I mean, those are both kind of interesting words.
The Apple logo in that is kind of like a metallic dust type thing.
Right.
I've heard, I don't know if this is true, but that they're using metallic 3D printing to do some pieces for the iPhone. So maybe it's related to that, but that seems pretty technical to
3D printing with like metal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's totally a thing, right?
Yeah, man.
I don't know.
I thought it was like thin as dusting, like thin as snapped and the apple is disintegrating.
Oh, maybe.
Like no more apple.
This is where Apple becomes a villain.
Well, by the time you're listening to this, you already know exactly what they announced. So your guys' speculation will sound naive.
Well, I had no idea there was an event today, so there you go, Nick.
It's going to be fun.
Hey, that's advancement, Adam. Maybe you're just getting old and cynical, you know?
Less cares, I guess, about particular things.
So you're probably not going to get a new iPhone.
Oh, my new rule is I even hate to say this because like I'll probably be attracted to it and I'll want it, but I'll delay it for like a year. And the reason why I tend to get newer phones is usually for the camera. So obviously I want the latest one.
Yeah.
But I've learned over the last 2 times I bought phones, I can always get like $800 off a phone if I just wait 1 year. So if I'm a year behind, I can save a ton of money on the phone. And I like to save that money.
I really want a new one. I really want a new one just because of USB-C. Like, throw away all of my Lightning except for these stupid AirPods Max that I have.
Ah, be careful, Nick. Apple would not want you calling those stupid.
So Lightning's gone forever. At this point, it's USB-C all the way.
That is the rumor. And I think it's mandated at this point by the...
I was going to say, weren't they forced by the EU to do that?
Yeah. But also that might be an interesting announcement that might have an effect on browsers isn't it in the EU or at least some countries where they're going to have to allow sideloading?
Oh, that I don't know.
Hello, native other browsers.
Yes.
But probably not for us because we don't have those regulations.
You think they would allow it just there and not here?
Yeah, because they do that with other things. Like you can do alternative payments in like Norway for dating apps or something like that. Like very specific things.
Yeah. Gosh, it must be difficult to be such a global software company.
Yeah.
Where you have to deal with these statutes in each country that you're operating in. Not for me. Not for me. Software is complicated enough.
Thankfully, we're just an indie media company, you know?
Yeah. We just talk about this stuff. We don't have to go do it.
That's right.
All right, Nick, where can people find you besides JS Party and the world famous Vim with Me video series that's going to be coming out? Where do people connect with you nowadays?
Those are perfect places, but if those don't work, literally everywhere else. I'm Nick Nisi.
Just look for Nick Nisi. You'll find him.
Literally everywhere else.
On every social network there is.
Mm-hmm.
Except for TikTok. I hate TikTok because they stole my name.
They did?
I mean, I got on early enough that it wasn't tied to an account. It was tied to your phone. And then I got a new iPhone and I lost that.
And you can't recover it.
Yeah, I've tried and they're like, oh, send us something. And then they just never respond.
So username @Nick Nisi on TikTok is taken by you that you can't recover.
Yes. So I'm Nick.Nisi, which is terrible.
Painful. Better than a hyphen.
Here's what I've learned about TikTok. No one cares about usernames. On that
That's
platform.
an unpopular opinion.
On that platform.
Oh, on that platform.
Yeah, on that platform. It's more about the quality of the content than it is the username, which I kind of like. It democratizes like all the constraints you have as a creator. Like, must have the right domain name, must have the right username. Like it takes that out of there.
Nice. Maybe my hope will be restored for that.
Yeah.
So Nick.Nisi coming soon to TikTok with his Vim with Me videos.
Although I did see a video yesterday where if you have a dot in your name, people are kind of against that.
Always.
They don't care about usernames at all.
Jared's face for like a split second was like, no way.
Yeah, well, I was catching up kind of in the sentence because I was thinking about something else. I was trying to catch up with your sentence, and once I realized it, I was like, "Oh, good one, dude."
That's a good one, yeah.
All right, should we say goodbye?
Yeah. Bye, Nick. Bye, friends.
This is fun.
Yeah, man. Welcome back anytime.
Post hoi hoi.
Ahoy, hoy.
Hey, there he is. He finally showed up. Bye, friends.
Change all plus plus. It's better.
It's better. We forgot to get Nick's review of the horse browser on the show, but we did remember right after we stopped recording. So we hit record again, but it gets a little dicey, so we're keeping it to just changelog++ people. If you're interested in making the ads disappear, hearing extended episodes like this one, and directly supporting our work, changelog++ is for you. And if you'd love to support us but don't have the cash, maybe your work has a professional development budget. Lots of people are using that to increment their changelog experience. Sign up today at changelog.com/++.
It's better.
Next week on the Changelog, news on Monday, an interview with Stephen O'Grady from Red Monk on Wednesday, and no Friends episode on Friday. Sorry, but we'll be at Strange Loop. Have a great weekend, and let's talk again real soon.